worked towards their full actualization. This tonight on Blunt Talk, and of course we are looking in the angle of the highlights of Parliament's activities from 2016 to 2021. All this is being discussed right here on Muvi TV, your #1 national television. Of course, when we get back in 58 seconds, we talk and discuss this particular pertinent issue right here.
This is Zambia, Christian nation. Yeah, yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper.
Good evening once again. Welcome to Blunt Talk, the fearless debate. My name is Chisha Chola. Now, like I mentioned, Parliament is being dissolved very soon, and tonight we discuss the highlights of Parliament's activities with two particular important guests in the studio. The first guest who I'm going to introduce to your screens is Mputa Ngalande, who is a governance activist. Welcome to Blunt Talk.
Thank you very much for having me, moderator.
All right, great. My second guest for this particular evening is Mark Wesangoma, who is Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia Programs Officer. Welcome to Blunt Talk.
Thank you so much. Good evening, viewers.
All right. So my guests for this evening, we have simple rules that we follow. And these rules are that you have 3 minutes to utilize for you to answer the questions that I'm asking you this particular evening. All right, so if you have any counter reaction towards your panelists, you have to utilize the 3 minutes that you've been given to answer the questions and to answer the deliberations right here on Blunt Talk. I hope that is very clear.
Yes.
Sure,
all right,
sure.
Great, wonderful. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the programs officer coming from Alliance for Accountability Advocates. And of course, realizing that you are into monitoring and trying to enhance the capability of the people who are standing in elections for governance issues. Are you satisfied so far with Parliament's work from 2016 to 2021? Your time starts now.
Well, that's an interesting question, and I want to say it's a double-edged sword. It's a yes and no kind of question, and my answer is definitely yes and no. The government of Zambia indeed has made some tremendous strides with regards to certain laws in Zambia, and there's some laws that are rather contentious as we speak right now, that sections of society feel are sort of oppressive or deterrents to, active citizens' participation in governance, in politics, and in every other sphere of our country. So it's a yes and no. So, for instance, on the yes aspect, it was due and long overdue that Zambia had a cybersecurity act, for instance, and that was a necessary move indeed. But then, on the no side, is that some of the clauses in the act itself sort of act as deterrents to people's effective participation in decision-making processes and in governance issues because of the ambiguousness of the laws themselves. I might not know by just posting 1 or 2 quotes that I'm offending or I'm infringing someone's rights, but then to be taken to court over such a manner when the law hasn't yet been fully dissolved into the people's mindsets and people's abilities to understand it is rather harsh. So yes, yes and no with regards to the laws that the Zambian government has made since 2016 being fully effective. Yeah.
All right. What of the the work naturally? Because even members of parliament also, we could see some of them representing their constituencies effectively. Others people would say, you know, we haven't heard any word from this particular member of parliament. Would you attribute, or rather would you assess, you know, the work from that particular angle as well?
Okay, that's a good take. What we need to understand is that good governance comes hand in hand with good citizenship. We as citizens have an obligation to the state to ensure that we provide oversight, to ensure that we participate, we engage, and we effectively contribute to the duties of being a good citizen. So when it comes to the issues of whether one member of parliament has done the necessary task in ensuring that citizens are fully aware of any laws that are being changed or being amended, that has always been some sort of a contentious issue in Zambia. Because just as we speak today, as of 2021, over 20 laws have been amended in Zambia. But to the question is,
right,
how many
your
people
time is up,
actually participate?
I'm going to add 30 more seconds for you to finalize.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks. Yeah, so the question is, how many people actually participated in amendment of these laws? Because by the Zambian law is that us as the citizens, us as constituencies, need to take part in the changing of laws, in the amendment of laws, in the creation of laws. But the question is, how effective is the system that allows us to participate at community level?
All right, great. Let me throw it to you, Mputangalande, who is a governance activist. Are you satisfied so far with Parliament's work from 2016 to 2021?
I'm not satisfied, and the most, you know, there are certain bills that have been in Parliament that no one dares to touch it, even or push them, even those from the opposition, those from the ruling party, because these are bills that to some extent limits certain individuals or certain people in certain positions. One of them is where before we borrow money, we must the Parliament must come in and give guidance to that extent, and that law, no one wants to talk about it. And the other thing is, we have seen a couple of laws that have been made, some of them which is the cyber security bill, which infringes on people's rights. And so if someone posts something and they insult in that post, or they incite violence and what, there are laws that can deal with them in that aspect, that were already there even before the bill was put there. Because if we curtail people to speak their minds, then we are going back on the part 3 of our constitution, which is the Bill of Rights, and talks about people expressing themselves if they want to express themselves. Yeah, and the other thing maybe is the Bill 10. We saw Bill 10, the fight that was there. The fight that was there in Parliament, the opposition, the ruling party, even other sections of society, and Parliament was a battlefield. And definitely, I believe the people, the will of the people was seen at last, and we pay kudos to parliamentarians that were there and made sure that certain laws that bring the right of citizens to limitations do not see the day, another day in public or even in our books of laws. And the other thing is, we saw maybe certain parliamentarians that make laws, and people that we believe should uphold the law, breaking the law, and some of them finding themselves behind bars. Yeah, so I feel that is one thing. As we are going to Parliament, yes, we are human, but we must be people that respect the law as members of Parliament, as the people that make that law.
And how would you rate their performance overall from 1 to 10?
Their performance from 1 to 10, I would give them 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I would give them 4 because, again, there are committees that make findings, very beautiful findings, that when they go to the House and it becomes political, it is no longer the interest of the citizens, no. That's the biggest challenge that we have. So you find that maybe these committees chaired by an opposition MP, and the findings are quite revealing that people need to be persecuted, but when it goes to the floor of the House, no moral caliber that is shown to make sure that people that have abrogated the law in terms of breaking the law are brought to book.
All right, great. Let me throw it back to you, Putangalande. What has been your highlight, in Parliament, with Parliament's ruling and the work so far from them? And also, do you think really that the members of Parliament that have stood so far have really done something different in their constituencies? Because one trend that we've seen is that once a member of Parliament has been appointed as a minister of a particular department or a minister of, for example, maybe health, they'll be able to, no, let me not give health because people would think I'm indirectly trying to attack the incumbent, but let's say a minister of Chisha Chola, all right? That particular minister forgets the constituency where they're coming from and focuses on the department. What is your thought on that as well? And what has been your highlight from 2016 to 2021?
I think my highlight in Parliament, this Parliament that will be dissolved soon, is the stripping off of allowances for students. I think that brought a lot of emotions even in the House and the debate and even the citizens. And some of us that were are given an opportunity to sit in the gallery in Parliament and listen to those debates, we saw who was who, and people that care for the public and people that don't care for the public. I think that is one.
Was it a wrong move? Do you believe it was a wrong move?
So, if Chisha, you benefit from a certain privilege and you see it fit to deny other people the same privilege that you enjoyed and made you who you are, and then today you deny another person to access the same privilege that you enjoyed, will that be okay? Well, that is hypocritical.
Yeah, the reason which was given anyway was that they're trying to alternate some financials to other institutions that could benefit from
education. There is no country that has developed without education.
Yeah,
and giving young people that come from a poor family an opportunity to find food in school, it is not something that should be joked about. And that is one thing that I feel Parliament, this previous Parliament, failed us.
So you believe that it was a wrong move to be able to try to fund some other schools as well?
That is not a wrong move, but the wrong move that is there is giving, stripping allowances that make those young people survive and be very effective in school.
Which was the whole rationale. They were trying to also fund other schools as well. We've seen that it's not only now UNZA and CBU that are being funded. We also do have other schools that are being funded. Do you still believe that was a wrong move?
Yes.
If I may come in actually on that.
All right, you'll be able to, in the 3 minutes that I'll be able to give you.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, I feel we needed to expand this loan issue to other schools so that all of them access these services, right?
Yeah.
But if we were going to expand, we needed to find a solution. This country has a lot of resources, and stripping lunch allowances, I don't think that is one way of us saying we needed to expand to other schools. There were ways that we could have expanded without stripping the meal allowances to students. You and me would believe students that are at the University of Zambia that used to get meal allowances used to get things that they really need in their daily lives. That even the family at home, from the families they come from, couldn't afford. But that 22 kwacha that you are given maybe a day, and you get
30 more seconds, your time is up.
And you get it at the month end, could help a cushion and buy some other stuff, not just food, but even study material and other stuff that would make them effective into getting their education.
All right, great. Mr. Mark Besangoma, Programs Officer of Alliance for Accountability Advocates. And even as I ask you this particular question, remember the rules, you're able to counter-react if you want in your 3 minutes. So my question to you is, do you believe each particular MP has represented their constituency according to how they did promise to? And also, what has been your highlight in the Parliament ruling from 2016 to 2021?
Okay.
In 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, great points coming from my colleague here, and he spoke on the Public Finance Management Act in terms of how borrowing can be done in Zambia. For me, I feel that is one of the biggest howlers that the current government has made with regards to laws in Parliament. Oversight is necessary in borrowing, and that's what Parliament was there for, to ensure that there's sufficient oversight. Yes, borrowing in itself is not a bad thing. It's definitely not a bad thing, economically speaking. The question is, how prudent are you in borrowing? Are the resources that are being borrowed being utilized for exactly what was intended? So those are some of that for me is one of the biggest howlers, given that our debt levels are already at extreme highs, that it's hard to control, and our income is not as good, given that some copper mines have been closed, when yet the copper prices are actually hitting record highs, so meaning our tax base has shrunk. But coming away from that as well, I feel, for instance, that the Local Government Act and the Local Governance Process Act itself are quite good acts, in terms that they allow young people's participation in decision-making processes, in decision-making structures. The question is always going to be in Zambia is how vested are we as young people as well in understanding the laws that promote our meaningful participation, because we're going to talk about laws that are being made daily, yeah? But what we should take into key fact is that Zambia has never been this youthful ever before. 7 out of every 10 Zambians right now are young people. If you were to randomly pick 10 Zambians right now, 7 will be between the ages of 15 and 35, which is classified as youth. But when you go to Parliament, on the other hand, that representation is only one person who's below the age of 35 and considered as a youth. But so it makes a youth like him and I not feel part and parcel of the laws that are being created, because they're not responsive to our needs, because our needs are not tabled in Parliament, because we do not have representation. Yeah. It's one thing for a 60-year-old man to talk about my well-being, my welfare, whether I need food when I'm at UNZA or not, as compared to a youth who's my age, who just came from UNZA, who understands the plight at UNZA, speaking on my behalf in Parliament. So that's where the biggest conundrum is in Zambia. Our representation as young people in Parliament is very, very negligible, that at the end of the day, a youth in Zambia will not feel represented by anything that's being done, whether it's in education, health, defense, or any other sphere you can think of, because our representation, there's a large age divide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you wanted to counter-react to his comment.
Yeah.
Yes, just quickly do that in 52 seconds.
Thank you. I want to concur with him with regards to the stripping of bursaries, and allowances, meal allowances to be specific. In Zambia, the education budget has been shrinking the past 5 years. It's reaching record lows, when yet we've got commitments of reaching 15% in the different commitments under the AU and under the Sustainable Development Goals as well. So the question is, why not divert more funds to education, so that you maintain those people who need the meals in schools, while it's providing other schools with such meals as well? Just recently, there's a Public-Private Partnership Act in Zambia. So with such partnerships is where you bring a catering service into UNZA, for instance. They provide the meals as a business, but yet government subsidizes their salaries at the end of the day, so that they can walk away with something as well. It shouldn't have to be handing out a 22 kwacha per se, but young people in schools can get a voucher, for instance, from a shopping market from a supermarket to get all the basics that they need. They can go to the canteen and get the necessary meals and nutrition that they need. That can be done in a more systematic way, and rather than just giving out the money itself. So it's such issues that need to be raised in Zambia when we are talking about our acts, because there is a private partnership act that is roaming right now in Zambia, and there's a Higher Education Act. Merge them where they're supposed to be merged.
One would wonder whether Zambia has really the financial resources to be able to target each particular school and give them the food, because we saw that the president did launch an economy recovery plan,
yes,
which means that we are struggling financially. But that is also another topic of discussion. Let's get to, you've all talked about the bills that you're not satisfied, or rather the laws that have been passed on and you're not satisfied and you're not happy with. But let's talk about the laws that have been passed and you are finding a satisfaction from it because you're happy that this law is going to benefit each and particular Zambian, in the country. Let me start with Mputa Ngalande. A law or laws that you feel that this one is helpful to Zambia.
The law that I'm finding helpful to Zambia.
Yeah.
As of now.
Are you trying to say that there's no law that, that has been signed by the president in parliament that is helpful to many Zambians out there? Okay. Why do you say so, Mr. Mputa Ngalande?
So the biggest challenge that I have is that any law that becomes political, and a lot of laws that were brought about were laws that would bring dealing with someone and trying to reduce someone to a certain extent or keep someone. That is not a law that should be. Laws are not supposed to be targeted at certain groupings or like that.
Which are those laws that you feel have been targeted to certain
young people?
groups?
Young people these days use Facebook.
Yeah.
And the cybersecurity bill, and young people. You remember last year when they were in quarantine and young people stopped being drunk and they realized that the economy is not okay, and they went to WhatsApp, formed a group. I was added to almost, I don't know if it's 50 group where young people are just angry and saying we need to protest, we need to do what, and I was like, okay, so this quarantine should continue because a lot of young people now are realizing that things are not okay, but maybe before the quarantine they would think things are not okay. By the time they realize they are drunk half of the week, and then they realize now they are not drunk the whole week, and now they realize that life is not. We need to stand up as young people, and we saw a lot of young people even on Facebook. Disgruntled youths now came into the picture, and a lot of young people were just coming out and saying, "No, we want our issues to be tabled." Yeah. Me, I don't think that discussion was directed at the government. No. Parliament is consists of opposition and the ruling party. Yeah. And at some point, I was part of the group that was reviewing. I represented young people on the group that was were reviewing the constitutional lacunas in the constitution. And one of the law, when I stood in front of members of parliament, both and the majority were from opposition. When I proposed that members of parliament, we should come up with a law that members of parliament that are not performing in their constituencies, they can be recalled. They got furious. And there is one senior member of parliament that almost, he just asked, who brought this kid in front to tell us this nonsense? Don't you have anything to talk about? But I wanted to understand, because it is touching them on the power of them being effective, and now they think it is bad law. Then we do not have people, because if it is something that provides accountability, even if it is attacking you or it is attacking the opponent, you must be able to support it.
All right, so you believe that there is no law that has been passed that you're satisfied with?
Unless if I check in my mind again, I might come back and
all right, we'll get back to you. Mr. Mark Resangoma, Programs Officer, Alliance for Accountability Advocates. Do you believe there is at least even one law from 2016 to 2021 that has been passed in Parliament, and you feel it at least enhances or aids the living of the Zambian people?
Ngalande has left me in doubt. I'm just playing. Yeah, just to quickly touch on Ngalande's last point with regards to how to recall members of parliament. So there's an issue known as a social contract. Mm-hmm. So with social contracts, it's basically constituency 75% of the constituency in an area, if they decide that our area member of parliament is ineffective, we can put a vote of no confidence. Yeah, so there are such provisions of laws in Zambia, but the question is, to what extent do people know this information, you know? To what extent do people actually understand how this information can be made useful on a daily basis? Because constituencies are what build the nation at the end of the day. It's the zones, it's the wards in the constituencies that are constituting of communities, of households, of individuals like you and I who need the daily security, the water, the energy, education, health, and so forth. You know, so if you are not here to do your job for me as your representative, then what are you doing here? Should be the basic question, and that's what a social contract helps us with. So speaking of social contracts, one law for me that I feel is useful, except that perhaps the information isn't just widely popular, is the Local Governance Act. So in the Local Governance Act, under section 7 or so, when it's talking about the Ward Development Coordinating Committee, there's a specific clause that's talking about the representation of a young person in that committee, the representation of a gender focal point person. You know, the stipulation of representatives on that in the act itself are there to promote young people's participation. We as young people will continue going around this loop of complaining that ABCD is not working if our representation, if our participation is not meaningful. We as young people need to take the charge now. The famous quote of young people are the futures of the leaders of tomorrow, the leaders of the future, is long gone to us now. The future is today. So what do you and I do at community level that will help Zambia at national level is now the question I'm going to ask us, all of us here. We need to participate more meaningfully, and that's what the Local Government Act has done. At least it clearly stipulates that there should be a young person in the ward, because if more young people are represented at ward level, we'll be able to have better accountability, because young people will be able to question directly through the given channels of communication, from ward all the way to constituency, all the way to district, all the way to provincial, all the way to national level. There will be a chain of information flow. But if we young people are not taking up these seats at the tables where discussions are being made, decisions are being made that affect us on a daily basis, we will really be continuing to wonder if our government is there for us and ABCD. But we are the people who make government at the end of the day. And now the fact that there are more young people in Zambia than ever before, it's definitely our time.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Let's get to the constituency development funds. All right, and of course, there's been a huge debate, and this particular fund has been politicized highly. And I remember I did have some political parties that really did complain about the CDFs. But let's hear it from your view as a governance activist and as you know, an accountability advocate as well. What do you think the CDFs, the constituency development funds, have been, you know, utilized to full capacity in the constituencies? Let me throw it back to you, Mark Vesangoma, Programs Officer, Alliance for Accountability Advocates.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Chisha. So, if we look at the audit report, for instance, it does show a lot of misappropriation of the said CDF funds. So, speaking from an economic point of view, I want to argue that it hasn't been effective. It's a great initiative, but it hasn't been effective. I'll drive us back to the Local Government Act. So the money that comes in through the CDF trickles down to constituencies and trickles down to wards. But the question is, are young people seated in these wards to know the allocation, the disbursement, and utilization of these funds? Because if you don't know these three, these funds will keep on just passing us and not understanding what they're there for. So we as young people need to be more vigilant. We need to understand from the budget how much has been allocated as CDF for this year in this budget cycle. So how much is going to trickle down to each district, how much is going to trickle down to each constituency, how much is going to trickle down to each ward. Because it's only when I know that I'll be able to hold whoever is entrusted with that fund accountable. I can't come and hold you accountable, Chisha, for something that's in your wallet that I have no idea about. But if it's a public resource that's in your wallet, I need to know. I'm supposed to know because it's a public resource just by the name. That's what the Constituency Development Fund is. So it's a good initiative because it would help grassroots development. People in a different constituency have different needs. Yes, we might say we need quality education throughout Zambia, but constituency A, on the other hand, for them the most pressing need is perhaps curbing the alcohol and drug abuse by the young people in their community, and they feel they need to make certain interventions. That's what the Constituency Development Fund comes in. We understand that there's water issues in our constituency, so we need to perhaps sink more boreholes so that we can ensure that all communities in this constituency have water. That's what we need our Constituency Development Fund for. But that topic can only be generated if we young people are participating at grassroots level.
Do you think it has been actualized on the ground?
So, on paper it's one thing, but being done as well on the ground, it's another thing, Chisha, to be honest. And I want to argue that we young people as well are part of this problem and are part of the solution. If we as young people do not take keen interest in understanding what a Constituency Development Fund is, when is it dispersed, how is it dispersed, who is it dispersed to, it makes it not worthwhile at the end of the day, you know. It makes it not worthwhile, but we are the majority of Zambia at the moment.
Also, we've had complaints that people are saying that, you know, you find that certain constituencies are not really receiving those CDFs. So, you know, your UPND have been on record complaining that it's really a process for them to, you know, to be able to get those CDFs in the constituencies that they are members of parliament. Would you agree, looking at it from accountability as an accountability advocate?
Okay, thank you for that, Chief. That's a good question.
In 30 seconds, your time is
Okay,
up.
so there are two things here. Politics and governance are two different species altogether. Politics is the rational argument you have between members of parliament, whilst governance are the systems in place to ensure that no matter which politician is at the realm, these systems will work this way. So the Constituency Development Fund, if the system is right, no matter which political party is in power, there won't be places where it will be considered as strongholds and ABCD holds that these funds won't be able to reach them. So it's the systems. We need to appreciate in Zambia that governance and politics are two different things. But right now they feel very merged, that governance decisions are influenced by politics and political decisions are influenced by governance, which should never be the case. So to just clearly state what my answer is to your question, Chisha, is we need to separate the two.
Right.
If we are going to overcome issues such as the
1 to 10 rate the use on the ground of CDFs.
What's the?
1 to 10 rate the use on the ground of CDFs.
That's a difficult one to say off the top of my head. So this is me as an individual speaking, not as the advocate, because the advocate in me would have to conduct a further research in this, yeah? But I, tentatively speaking, I want to say it's a 4.5 to 5 itself.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. I would love to ask our technicians to restart the time, and I'm going to throw it back to you, Mr. Mputa Ngalande. The same question on CDFs, the Constituency Development Funds. Do you think they've been actualized on the ground in 3 minutes?
So the most important thing is we need to, like my brother said, separate politics from issues that were and things that really need to affect our people. So if we are a lot of constituencies, those that perceived to be opposition, it is very difficult for them to get this CDF. But I'll speak because I'm coming from a constituency where a member of parliament comes from the ruling party, and in my ward I've been instrumental in the disbursement of and making sure that I understand what is happening with the CDF, especially the ward fund that comes to our ward, and at there are certain young people that have written proposals when the funds are out. I'm particularly in charge of disseminating the information and making sure that young people in that community understand and get this information of proposals. We want proposals, and I am glad to mention that through the engaging the local leadership, it has really yielded a lot of results. And I believe if we're going to have leaders that listen, like the Ward Development Committee that is there, chaired by the councillor, they are going to work in that manner in other areas and have such caliber of leadership, then we are going to have an effective development where if a young person brings a proposal, the councillor is really instrumental in making sure that that proposal is taken to council and they look at it and bring about change. And we have seen a few young people getting empowerment as them writing to the council to get that fund. And the most important thing is that the soberness of not choosing because this person belongs to a political party is one thing that I think as a youth, as a governance activist in that community, I've strived to do, and it is one thing that we are proud of as young people that come from that community, that we have been able to influence the leadership not to look at and channel that development into just one particular pool of young people. I feel that is more cardinal, and then we are going to see the development from the ward fund that will come in the community. It will be a meaningful development. So yes, to some extent, and to the larger extent, the CDF from other communities, it is a sorry sight. But speaking from the community where I come from the ground, like he said, you need to do a research, but I've been involved the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Quickly,
answer in 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, and the biggest challenge is, again, young people do not understand. For example, you would open applications maybe for them to access funds and write proposals. They don't understand how to write proposals. And maybe the best thing is that we have been there, some of us that have been privileged at some point to understand such a caliber and ask them what idea they have and help them write proposals. I feel if we're going to develop the CDF in that sense of more, it becomes more of community empowerment, then it will be a very good thing, because we will see a lot of development.
From 1 to 10, how would you rate?
From the experience from my community, I would give it a 7.
7.
Yes.
All right, great. Let's get to your expectations once all national leaders or members of parliament are chosen and Parliament gets back after 12th elections. What are you expecting from the people who are aspiring for this, particular leadership positions? Because we all know that they'll have another 5 years to represent us. What are you expecting as a governance activist and also an accountability advocate coming from an organization, civil society organization, and trying to see that there's a change out there? Let me get to Mr. Ngoma. What are expectations?
Okay, thank you for that, Chisha. Well, my expectations as an advocate, number one, are obviously to see more young people in Parliament. Because, to be honest, that's the only way. And when I say only way, I mean it in the literal and the figurative sense. If the numbers in Parliament are youthful, we'll see more responsive laws to young people. We'll see more responsive policies to young people. Just as from Galandes, from speaking out here with regards to how CDF has been utilized in his community. So from the ground, he knows that there's a gap in terms of young people might have the idea but can't put it down on paper and so forth. So let's use our CDF to make incubation hubs. We bring these young people, we train them, we build their capacity, we provide them with the resources they need, the technical support and so forth, using this CDF so that they grow our community, because that's the only way we're going to grow sustainable cities at the end of the day, to fulfill some of the sustainable development goals. So as an advocate, my key take is we need to see more young people in Parliament, because it's only then that laws will be very responsive. It's only then that there will be fair representation, not just but fair representation, which is what Zambia needs and requires at the moment. Because this divide that is there between the lawmakers and the people who are affected by the law is quite huge, and it's very, very large. So that in itself makes it seem as if the laws that are being made are not necessary, or they're a waste of time in a way to some cases. But no, the problem is there's just that age gap, that divide. There are young people in Zambia today who've born in the technological age, who had a cell phone by the age of 7, 8, and 9, you know, and today they be considered as voters as well. But then you have someone making decisions on how you can utilize this device, how you can communicate, how you can participate in citizenship, in good citizenship and so forth, who barely understands this device. There comes the problem in itself, you know. So the root cause of many of our wars in Zambia is because young people are not meaningfully participating. For me, I couldn't care less who was in parliament after 12th, but the question is it fair and just representation? That's the only key now. Zambia is 51% population is female. We need
would you
more.
believe that would really develop and try to enhance the economy of Zambia?
Responsiveness of laws, Chisha, makes a very big difference. I mentioned earlier that just this year, 25 different acts have been amended. You know, 25 different acts affecting all different spheres of life as we speak. And then these spheres of life are constituted by young people. 7 out of every 10. Let's take this statistic very serious. If you're to go randomly outside, whether it's right now, later on, count 10 Zambians, 7 will be young people. And therefore, the decisions being made should be responsive to these young people. Or else you end up having universities without meals. You don't expect me to become a productive citizen or a graduate on an empty stomach. It doesn't work like that.
All right. Mr. Mputangalande, what are your expectations, you know, as we're heading towards the elections and looking at the aspirants that are really standing? You know, we have to realize that these people are the ones who are going to represent Zambia after 12th August. What are you expecting from them?
So, as I speak right now, I'm disappointed even if the adoption processes have not been finished, because there are certain political parties that have done the same thing they've been doing and they expect different results. And the most sad thing that makes me upset is that we have created politics or going to parliament as a retirement package, where a civil servant saves, and then they are 56, they retire, and they decide to go into politics. You know, we're having people that are tired, sending them to parliament. You have served the country, and you are tired. Go and rest. My dream is we see young people that are young enough, blood still running in their veins, still with ideas, going to parliament and debating and coming up with issues that will solve our problems. Because someone that has been enjoying life as a civil servant, maybe as a permanent secretary, and then you send them again to parliament, the only thing they are there for is to enjoy again. You see? So, for me, I feel let's change the narrative of making parliament or politics a retirement ground. No, as young people, we should move forward and try by any means necessary, and we should be unapologetic. And for me, and it is sad that even now, as I said now, I'm seeing the same the parliament that is coming will be again the old folks in parliament, and that is very, very, very sad. I don't know what we are going to do as young people to claim our spaces, because, you know, just picking a young person and saying, come sit here, let's develop this document, that is not meaningful youth participation. Meaningful youth participation is having young people sit in cabinet, having young people debate in parliament. And when I hope I'll see that in my lifetime. And when that happens, I'll be the most happiest person. And I can promise you this country will develop. Like he said, you know, when these people that are in parliament were growing up, they had different challenges, different issues that they understand when they were young people. Then it was very easy for them when they just finish university to get a job. But now some young people have to stay 4 years in the community or at home without a job, and they understand and they have innovative ideas now. They are beginning to realize on how to come up with solutions so that they create jobs. And if there are young people that also understand that pain in parliament, and they will be creating laws that will speak to those young people that are out there that understand. Because you can't solve something, you can't abemba say atuikere penyereti eumfo kukaripa alifaika umwine aima. Because you cannot, Mr. Chisha, you are sitting on a needle. You do not expect me to feel the pain and tell you to stand up. You yourself, you must stand up.
I am not feeling.
That is impossible. That is impossible. Are you dead?
Yeah.
Are you dead?
Then you're not responsive.
So you cannot say they cannot say they'll solve our problems. No, we are youth at heart and whatever. That is one thing that will never happen. For me, I'm never apologetic about having removing old folks. Some of them that have been in government from Kaunda's time until now. Yeah. What ideas are they going to bring that they have not brought in all these years that I've saved? What ideas are they going to bring?
Your time is up, but let me throw it back to you, Mr. Mputangalande. You did mention something very important about adoption process, which is also under my script. What is your assessment of the adoption process in the different political parties? And also, an add-on question to that is your view on the alliances that have been happening in the political parties. Those two questions in 3 minutes. So,
and this is how the political environment of Zambia is. If you have been there for a long time, you have observed a lot of people defect and there are alliances here and there. But we'll wait and see if they work. Wait and see if they work, because a lot of alliances have failed. And for me, if you ask me if these alliances are going to work, I have a very big doubt. Out of 100, maybe I can give it, if it works, I can give it 5% if it works. So I have seen a lot of this one jumping from this side, going to this side, this one jumping from this side. Yeah. It is, I don't know how I can call it, but that is Zambian politics. And for me, I'm never surprised. I've never been surprised, because I've been surprised before in the previous years of people moving and whatever. And right now I just watch, Uyulero Afendera is this side, okay. Yeah, and life goes on. Because politics is a game of numbers, and we expect people to defect, we expect people to change their stance, we expect people to say what they want to say, and they have a democratic right. But to the moral aspect, it is somehow shaky, and if people don't have morals, then there's nothing you can do, because there's no law that arrests someone that doesn't have morals. And yeah, so for me, the adoption process, like I said, I'm disappointed. There are certain political parties that kind of small political parties that have considered that, and I know why they're doing that, because they do not have that. How can I put it? They do not. Those political parties that are influential, most of them, they are not adopting young people. But let's wait and see when all the political parties adopt.
Is it only about young people? All of the women, the disabled?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So the minority in these adoption processes, a lot of them have been left out. Yeah. And for me, I was praying for just a 30% maybe of young people in each political party being adopted, maybe as councillors, 30%.
And many of them have complained that these adoption processes are actually corrupt.
You need money. I escorted a few young people that went to go vie for aspiring as councillors. You need money. Okay. You need
Why is it
money.
Like that? Why?
Need money. These are systems that have been created by old people that have resources, so that they deter young people from having the upper hand.
All right. I did notice that the time wasn't showing on the screen, but I'm sure your 3 minutes has elapsed. Let's get to Mr. Mark Besangoma. The two questions to you: the adoption process, and also your thoughts on the alliances. Quickly, in 3 minutes.
Okay. So for adoption process, like Ngalande's just from mentioning, for me, if basically there were quotas put in place in political parties to say 30% should be youth, 20%, 30% should be women, 10% should be persons with disabilities, for me that would have signified that, okay, Zambia is moving in the right direction. In the year 2021, in the 21st century, we're taking a look, we're understanding and appreciating the demographic trends that are there in Zambia. Because as we speak right now, 10% of Zambians are considered persons with disabilities. That's about 1.8 million people. Then you should have an entire political party without such representation in their ranks, without young people meaningfully participating. Because it's one thing when our participation is taken as tokenization, manipulation, or decorativeness. That's has been the case with young Zambians. You know, when you think of the term cadre in Zambia, you think someone who's violent, someone who's willing to go to extreme lengths to do a BCD, but that isn't the actual definition of a cadre. You know, I just respect these values and morals that are being propagated by this movement, and I want to follow them. That's who a cadre is. But then here in Zambia, our people we consider as cadres are tokenized. They're manipulated into being all sorts of tools that are unnecessary in our society. So the adoption process on its own, for me, it has been quite a large disappointment. I figured it would be high time, given the statistics, that would see more young Zambians taking center stage in different not just positions for representation, but including in the structures themselves of the parties. Yeah. Because it's only then that we can appreciate such incentives.
Your thoughts on the alliance?
Well,
or alliances per se.
Alliances per se. Well, yeah. I guess there's more of a charge of saying we need a new political party in Zambia or a new political government in Zambia than thinking about the entire governance system of Zambia. I want to argue that that is kind of the problem here. You know, we're not looking at how will we fix Zambia's woes. We're looking at how will I get to be Zambia's next president or Zambia's next ABCD. You know, but I feel that that shouldn't be the case in a democratic state. The democratic state manifestos, policies right now should be talking to what the people need. If you're going to form an alliance with someone who's speaking on the same hymn book as you. You're looking at the plight of youth and figuring out ABCD plans and EFG plans. And you're looking at, oh, okay, we're missing on such a front. Let's make this alliance and forge ahead with this. Yeah. Not making political alliances to remove a sitting government. For me, that's just disappointing at the end of the day.
All right. Yeah. All right. I know we have 5 minutes only to finish this particular program, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes each to answer 2 questions, so we can be done with the particular discussion that we had for today. So my first question is that 19 presidents have so far been confirmed to pay the presidential candidate nominee. Mr. Mark Vesangoma, you seem to be disappointed. But yeah, so 19 candidates have paid the presidential nominee. What is your view on that? And what are you expecting after Parliament is dissolved on Wednesday, 12th May 2021? Mr. Mputangalande.
So,
in 2 minutes,
19 presidents, well, they have their that's their democratic right, and nothing stops them. For me, is may the best person win, and my expectations after
isn't it wasting too much resources because they're paying over 90,000.
That is how democracy is. Democracy, we should waste at some point. It is deemed to be a resource wasting. But if I decide I want to stand and I pay a 90,
would it be better to have a smaller number to be voted than 19 candidates?
It would be better, cost effective, but in this case, people want to stand and they feel they are capable. We cannot deny them, because that's what the Constitution says.
All right, your expectations.
My expectations after the dissolving of Parliament is that we will start campaigning, and I want to think and go upon the leadership that is out there. That this time around, let's have elections or campaigns on a sober ground where there's no violence, and that is one thing that I pray I will see as we move forward. And for young people that will be adopted, either they're a small minority, I want to tell you, youthie, don't ikutin, don't be scared, and let's go there. And I want to urge all young people out there, regardless of, as long as they are young people, if they belong to any political party, let's resolve to vote for them and vote for young people from whichever political party, so that we have a lot of young people represent us in Parliament and all these other offices that will be standing will come for elections in this on 12th August.
All right, thank you for keeping your time. Mr. Mark Vesangoma, Programs Officer of Alliance for Accountability Advocates. First question is, what is your reaction to the 19 confirmed candidates, which means there might be more. They haven't just, maybe they did pay, yesterday, and they haven't yet confirmed. But what is your reaction to that? And also, what are expectations once Parliament is dissolved after 12th May 2021?
All right, thank you for that.
Yeah,
2 minutes. So 19 candidates, wow. Like Ngalandes pointed out, democracy sometimes can be sort of a resource drain, I cannot, for me in my utopian world, I'm thinking, say 14 of those should have just spread their money over, say, 140 different constituencies to support young people as councillors, perhaps, For me, that would have been an utopian setting. But to hear there are 19, how long will our ballot papers be, That's a cost. That's the cost that we do not necessarily have to incur. So it's, and I feel that also just trivializes elections in a way. That trivializes elections in a way, to think 19 different Zambians at the moment want to vie for presidency. Come on. Yeah. That trivializes the importance of a general election that we're about to head into. So that's my take on the 19 candidates. And then with regards to Parliament dissolving, well, that's a great take from the fact that Bill 10 wasn't passed, because then the parliamentarians would have been parliamentarians until hours or weeks before elections, So, like Ngalande here has mentioned, the biggest and one way of showing maturity about Zambian elections, credibility, is we should have a peace treaty, Campaign, but do not have hate speech over the next candidate or over the next party, Campaign, but do not speak malice or ill or incite any form of violence or any form of upheaval against each other.
All right.
Campaign on issues that are pertinent. This is the point where we as young people as well need to become more serious. We need to take our candidates to task. Let's hear what they have to say so we can hold them accountable.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to Blunt Talk, the fearless debate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And youth, don't ikutin.
All right. Highlights of Parliament's activities was our topic for tonight's episode of Blunt Talk, the fearless debate. And of course, we are only waiting until we realize and see that Parliament has been dissolved on 12th May 2021, even as we are watching closely the elections on 12th August 2021. My name is Chisha Chola. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week at exactly 20 hours. Thank you.
This is Zambia, Christian nation. Yeah. Give us, give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper. This is Zambia, Christian nation. Yeah. Give us, give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper.